What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another video on my YouTube channel. And in this video, I'm going to talk about a couple of different things. But first, I'm going to start with the NFL because there's been some big news this week in particular in terms of coaching. And that news is that the Indianapolis Colts earlier this week fired Frank Reich, a guy that took them to the playoffs 2 times. Thought they were going to have some success with him, maybe even make a Super Bowl because of how good they looked in his first year there when Andrew Luck came back from injury. And if you guys remember that year, they started out that season 0-5 and ran the table and went on to make the playoffs. And then after that year, Andrew Luck retired, and then the Colts were kind of lost at quarterback because their generational talent at quarterback, their all-pro caliber quarterback, retired, and then they didn't really have anything. And so they went and got Phillip Rivers and were very good. They made the playoffs again. I think they went 12-4 and then got bounced out in the wild card round by Buffalo, I believe. And so, fast forward a few years, they get Carson Wentz. That doesn't really work out. And they trade Carson Wentz. And then they pick up Matt Ryan in the offseason to sort of give him one last hurrah. And the thing about the Colts and their decisions when it comes to quarterbacks is they've thought that over the last few years, they have a roster that can win games right now and maybe even go to a Super Bowl. I think that's what their thought process was. That's why they never fully accepted a rebuild or even drafted a quarterback in the first round. They got guys like Sam Ehlinger and quality guys that can be backups but can never be starters in the NFL. And so, fast forward to this season, Matt Ryan has been absolutely terrible, hot garbage. They bench him for the rest of the year, bring in Sam Ehlinger, and then they play the Patriots this past Sunday and put up one of their worst offensive performances in a long time, only scoring 3 points on the day. And then it comes out that earlier in the week they're firing Frank Reich, and so now the season's kind of over at this point. And so what they're doing is they're hiring Jeff Saturday to be the interim head coach for the rest of the season. And a lot of people had many problems with this, but the main problem being about the Rooney Rule. And yes, I know the Rooney Rule only applies to head coaching positions for a full season, but it makes people think so let's just give some background information on Jeff Saturday first. Amazing football player. He was a center that played for the Colts in the Peyton Manning days, multiple-time Pro Bowler, Super Bowl champion, all-pro center. Had a great career. And over the last few years, he's sort of made a name for himself as a broadcaster doing sports analysis on ESPN. He definitely knows the game. He definitely understands the game. He knows what he's talking about. He has a great football mind. But if you look at coaching experience, he basically has little to none. He coached in high school, and it didn't really work out well. I can't remember his record off the top, but he didn't have a winning record as a high school coach. I think it was like 3-7 or something like that. And so he has no college experience, no NFL experience, and so the Colts hired him to be their interim head coach. And basically what a lot of people are saying is they don't, and I agree with this, there isn't a black candidate that could leapfrog the process like that, because normally what happens in the NFL is you work your way up. You start out as an assistant coach, maybe a position coach, and then you go to coordinator, and then maybe if you're lucky you get an opportunity to be one of 32 head coaches in the NFL. And so he basically skipped all of that and got this job because one, owner Jim Irsay knows him. I'm sure he has a great relationship with him. And he was a great football player. And so he figured that it would be a good hire to see what the Colts can do for the rest of the season. But a lot of people are having issues with it because it basically undermines and throws everything out the window when it comes to having head coaching experience, like experience being required to be a head coach. Because we've seen over the last few years in multiple different sports, you can take Steve Nash for an example for the Brooklyn Nets. Great basketball player, Hall of Fame level basketball player, multiple time MVP, but he had no coaching experience. And the Nets hired him, and it turned out to be a disaster. He got fired recently, a few weeks ago. And so it really tells you that there is a difference between being a player and being a coach. Just because you were a great football player or basketball player or whatever it is, it doesn't mean you're going to be a great head coach. We've seen multiple examples over the last few years and over long periods of time when it comes to guys who were great, good to great. You don't have to be great. We've seen good players who weren't necessarily great playing, but they're amazing as coaches. It just depends on what what everyone's strong suits are. And so Jeff Saturday is going to come in. He's going to be the head coach for the Colts. A lot of people have issues with it, mainly because they believe coaches of color would not be getting an opportunity to leapfrog all that experience that people are saying you need to be a head coach and get a head coaching job like that, no matter how great of a player they are. And so let me know your guys' thoughts on that in the comments. What do you guys think about the hiring of Jeff Saturday as an interim head coach? I want to stress interim. This is not going to be their head coach. The Colts could say at the end of the year, all right, this was great. We enjoyed having you here, but we're going to go in a different direction. They could totally do that. It's just an interim hiring for head coach. And so let me know what you guys think about that in the comment section below. And so the next thing I want to talk about, I want to switch to the NBA. And I want to talk about the Clippers because they've won their last 5 or 6 games now, I believe. And Kawhi Leonard has only made 3 appearances for the Clippers all season long. And going into the season, many people, including myself, saw the Clippers as a title contending team with the roster that they have and all the depth that goes along with it. You got Kawhi and PG at the top. Then you got guys like Marcus Morris, Norman Powell, Terrence Mann, a guy who dropped damn near 40 points in a playoff game, and so many other guys, Brandon Boston Jr., and they have so many guys on that roster, and they know how to move the ball, they can shoot, they can defend, they can do everything. And Ty Lue, who is arguably the best coach in the NBA, found a way to put all that together and even make a conference finals 2 years ago in the 2021 playoffs when Kawhi Leonard got injured against the Jazz. And many people were like, oh, shoot, the Clippers aren't going to make it. But as we know, they come back from down 0-2 against Utah and then push the Suns to 6 games in the conference finals. And so a lot of people pick the Clippers to come out of the West this year, even though they've only made a conference finals one time in the history of their entire franchise. But they're banking on the health and chemistry that Kawhi, PG, and all these guys have, and the coaching of Ty Lue. But the problem is Kawhi Leonard's not playing. He's only played 3 games, I believe, so far this year, as he's coming back from an ACL that he tore in that same playoff series against Utah. And so many people are sort of like, what is going on with Kawhi, and can you win a championship with this guy? Because if you don't know, Kawhi Leonard has always proven himself to be an all-NBA caliber player, one of the best on-ball defenders, one of the best defensive players we've ever seen. And it started in San Antonio. They went to the conference finals against the Warriors. He got injured. They lost in 4. It was a sweep. And the whole next season, he only plays like 7 or 8 games because he's dealing with some sort of injury. I forget what it was. I think it was a bone bruise. That's what it was. They were saying it was a bone bruise. And then he basically didn't play the rest of the season. And then it was sort of up in air as to why. He thought that the doctors were clearing him too early. And other people were saying he just flat out didn't want to play for the Spurs and that he quit on them. So in that same offseason, he gets traded to the Raptors. The Raptors trade DeMar DeRozan to the Spurs for Kawhi Leonard, and they make that swap. And then Toronto goes on to win the championship, and then everyone's crowning Kawhi Leonard the best player in the world. And so everyone knew he wasn't going to stay in Toronto long term. So what he does is he makes his move. He goes to the Clippers. He sort of sets a trend to be like the first big market player to want to play for the Clippers. Goes to the Clippers to be rivals with LeBron. That first season there gets shut down. They go to the bubble. They beat the Mavericks in the first round in 6, and then they play Denver in the second round, and then they blow a 3-1 lead. And then Doc Rivers gets fired. They promote Ty Lue to head coach. They go on and beat Utah in the playoffs, meet the Suns in the conference finals, and lose in 6. And then the whole next year, Kawhi Leonard didn't play because of a torn ACL. And then they were missing Paul George for a majority of that year. And so everyone was like, okay, let's just wait on the Clippers. Let's just see if they can get healthy and get back to that championship contender status. And Paul George has looked good so far, and the Clippers have looked pretty good so far considering what they've had to deal with this year. But Kawhi Leonard is not playing basketball. And if he's not playing and he can't build continuity with this team before the playoffs, they aren't going anywhere. And it's not like the Warriors are looking that good. They're the defending champs, and they're struggling to... Every game is a struggle for them, it seems. Their defense is not the same. And so the West looks wide open right now. And if the Clippers want to establish themselves as that championship contender, Kawhi needs to figure out when he's going to come back and start playing games consistently for the Clippers so that when it comes playoff time, they know what they want to run. They know what to do defensively on both sides of the ball. They have that chemistry, and they should be able to make a run if he's there. But if he can't come back, then this is going to be a very disappointing finish this season for the Clippers. When Kawhi Leonard came to the Clippers, the expectation was championship, maybe even championships plural. But so far, they've only made one conference finals, and that was without him. And they are looking like they don't even know when he's going to come back this year because he hasn't been playing. And so if the Kawhi Leonard can't bring a championship to the Clippers, this experiment, the Kawhi and PG experiment that people call it, is definitely going to be considered a failure. And I would consider it a failure because you brought these guys in and your goal was to make yourselves the number one team in LA. You're getting a brand new arena pretty soon, so you don't have to be in the basement, right, with the Lakers. And if you don't have any championships to show for it, then what was the point? So Kawhi needs to come back and play games consistently for the Clippers if they want to take that next step, go to an NBA Finals, and even win an NBA Finals. So yeah, those are the two topics that I wanted to discuss in this video today. Let me know what you guys think about the hiring of Jeff Saturday, whether it was wrong, deserved, whatever you guys think. And then let me know what you guys think about the Clippers and Kawhi Leonard and what you guys think about him not playing. Yeah, and so leave all those comments in the comment section, and make sure to find all my other content linked in the description.